Wonderful Monday, everyone. Dr. Darby Campbell from Campbell Chiropractic. Today we're going to talk about SIDS and the flip side of back to sleep. So last week, you probably heard this on the radio or MSN or CNN, the American Academy of Pediatrics released a study that found the vast majority of parents aren't following the back to sleep guidelines. And what they essentially did is they shamed parents by making bad decisions, and it wasn't actually that helpful. But what they found was a lot of parents are putting their kids to sleep properly in the back to sleep. So isolated crib, no soft surfaces, blankets, bumpers, stuffed animals, toys, etc. But what they found is throughout the evening, a lot of parents were breaking back to sleep guidelines to get their kids to sleep, because we want our kids to sleep and we want to sleep personally. And so we take care of a ton of parents with brand new little ones in our practice. And we see from full spectrum. We see back to sleep guidelines all the way through to co-sleeping with a brand new newborn. So what I want to do today, or what I don't want to do today, is assign specific sleeping patterns, because there's actually good science on both ends. We tend to emphasize one, but there's a lot of good science on co-sleeping, and there's good science on back to sleep. But what I want to talk about today is SIDS and how to reduce risks, because that's what we're talking about with back to sleep in the first place. And then also the flip side of back to sleep, meaning the not so good side of the back to sleep program, because that's never covered as well. Alright, so SIDS. What is SIDS? Sudden infant death syndrome. It's where our babies stop sleeping in the evening or just in general, and if they do it long enough, unfortunately, we have sudden infant death. We have not found, through the years of study, we haven't found this causes this. We found a couple factors playing into it, but overall, if we look at a general picture, what we're seeing on with SIDS is kind of low brain activity in the vital centers of our brain. So that's our brainstem, okay? And it's actually very similar to adults with sleep apnea. We're getting low brain activity in the vital center, in the brainstem, and poor nerve flow from the brainstem down to the lungs, the throat, etc. And so what we're seeing is arrested breathing while we're sleeping. Okay, if that happens long enough, we get low oxygen levels. It happens long enough in babies, we get sudden infant death. And so we have all these factors that we're trying to protect against, but what if we just focused on how do we increase brain activity? So if we have a healthy brain, we don't have sudden infant death. Okay, and so when we have misalignments in the upper cervical spine, we actually have decreased brain activity in that vital center of the brain. And so during birth, we often get trauma to this upper portion of the cervical spine, which in turn decreases brain activity. And we see the same thing with adults. When we start taking care of their cervical spine, sleep apnea gets better. When we start taking care of babies, we're seeing brain health get better. And 65% of our brain's development occurs in that first year of life. And so we want to absolutely make sure we're developing well and quickly. And so the flip side of back to sleep. So if we are actually putting our babies on their back, we need to be very vigilant about tummy time, because normally they're getting that tummy time on their sleep historically before we had the back to sleep. Since we've started the back to sleep, we've actually had neurologic delay. We had to push all our milestones. Okay? And so our ability to hold our head up, our ability to crawl, our ability to sit and reach and push to sit, all of those have now been delayed. And they say that we catch up in 18 months. But what I say is we see neurological delay all the way into kids, like young kids, teenagers. So we want to make sure we're hitting all our milestones as fast as we can. So if we are doing the back to sleep, we want to make sure we're stressing tummy time for the majority of the day. If your child does not like tummy time, there's a reason. They should love tummy time, because that's how their brain is growing. And we take care of babies here, and we get them on their tummy, we get their C-spine corrected, and they start loving tummy time. Then they start crawling, holding their head up, walking, doing all their mental and neurological development. So that's your little tidbit today, and you have a wonderful week.